Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the next Foreman community demo. Ken Gilvin here as always, and I will be mostly talking about conferences today and other things as well. But a lot of people traveling today because we've got our conferences literally starting from tomorrow. So it's a pretty quiet day. So I'm going to talk a bit about that. We do have a few presenters, hopefully, if they'll get here. Still waiting for a couple to join. Yeah, it's just how it is. It's the way the dates have fallen. Such is life. The usual comments do up the quality of the stream if it has defaulted to something other than a high definition broadcast, just so you can see text and so on. Do check out the chat, so you can either jump into the YouTube live chat or you can jump into our IRC channel, #theforeman on Freenode, and I will be monitoring both of those for comments. And then join in, see, have your say. That sounds good to me. I think that's everything, really. So let's get started. Right, yes, first things first, agenda. The first RC is out. It's actually RC3, but don't be confused. That is the first RC. RC1 and RC2 had build issues, so we'd already built and signed the tarballs, so they can't be replaced so easily. But the actual builds themselves had issues that meant they couldn't really be released. So RC3 is technically the first release candidate. And that's out for you to play with. I believe RC4 is coming at some point soon. I don't know exactly when. Tomo would know, but he's traveling. So that's how it is. But yeah, there is the first RC of 121. Go play with it. Go try it. Please do. Let us know how you find it. All the usual comments for release candidates. We do rely immensely on the testing of the community to tell us all of the things that are wrong with it. Lukash usually puts up a testing schedule, like a scenario work list. So if you can tick off some of those, that would be fantastic. I've seen a few people already doing that, and that's much appreciated. We literally cannot test every possible combination. Foreman is a huge beast, right? So anything you can do to help us with that is hugely appreciated. Even just a note in the IRC channel saying, hey, I tried 121 and it was fine, that would be great. So please do let us know how you find it. On the same vein of feedback, there is also the Foreman community survey, which I'll come to in a minute. We have conferences, as I mentioned, and it's some developer stuff. I mean, as I say, a lot of people are traveling, but there is some stuff. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. So I mentioned the survey. You can hit it at foreman.org/survey. Nice and easy to remember. That's actually just a redirect. It'll take you to a Google form. I'm sorry, it's a Google form. I know not everybody likes Google, but sadly the competitors, the alternatives for making a decent form, I just didn't have the time to put in to make that work. Like, I'm sure I could make as good a survey as the one we have, but I was short on time, so it was much quicker for me to update last year's survey than write a whole new one from scratch. So I know some people don't like Google. Maybe that will change in the future if we can budget a bit more time, but right now it's a Google form. But that said, we don't ask for any identifying information ourselves, so access it over Tor. It'll be fine. And it's the usual thing. It's about 6 pages long. Everything is skippable. If a particular question doesn't apply or you don't feel comfortable answering it, then don't. That's fine. And if you can't make it to the end because you're bored or you need to go and die somewhere, then just skip to the end and hit submit with what you've managed, because even a partial answer is better than no answer at all. This is pretty much, other than meeting us in person or coming to chat with us in our IRC channel, this is pretty much our only way to give us some solid feedback on how Foreman is used by people in the community, because we don't have really any tracking in Foreman, so we don't know how it's being used, right? It's an open source project. We don't make you register for downloads. We don't pester you. We don't really phone home. It's the only option we have is these kind of surveys to find out how it's being used. So please do fill it in. Please do tell us how you use it. It's really important. And we'll obviously be pushing that at the conferences as well. Right now we have about 70 responses, which is pretty awesome because it's only been live for just over a week. It will at least run until middle of February. We usually run it for about a month. It seems like a good number, and then we shut it down and we do the analysis. Last year's analysis was pretty interesting. You can go and read that on the blog if you're interested to find out more about how Foreman is used in our community. Then there's a bunch of data there that you can have a look at. and I hope to do an even better job of that analysis this year. I want to do some trend analysis from year to year, because we'll have at least 3 years. After this one is completed, we'll have at least 3 years where the format hasn't really changed. Like, we changed some of the questions because sometimes we're interested in different parts. Like, there's a UI section this year, which we didn't have last year. But a lot of the questions don't change. And that means we can directly compare one year to the next and ask ourselves if there's been, you know, statistically significant changes in that data, which should be pretty interesting to start analyzing. So that's going to be fun, and that works best if we have lots of answers. Last year we got 160, I think. Year before that was 200. So if we get it back up to 200, that'd be amazing. So go and poke everybody that you know that uses Foreman. Obviously, don't get random people to fill it in. That'd be useless. But do get everyone you know who uses Foreman to go and fill it in, because it's important. All right, let's talk about conferences. So as I said, a lot of people traveling, a lot of people unable to join us today just because of the nature of what's happening. I myself am flying out tomorrow morning at stupidly early. I have to leave my house at like 3:30 in the morning. Tomorrow morning, which is, why do I do this to myself, honestly? But there's an event in Brussels tomorrow morning, all day tomorrow, that I want to be at, and so I need to get there in the morning, and that means I have to take a 6 a.m. flight, and then there's baggage, and not fun. But yes, so DevConf has already happened. I mentioned that in a sec. Then we've got FOSDEM, which is Saturday, Sunday, Config Management Camp on Monday, Tuesday, and we have a Foreman Hack Day on Wednesday. Talking about DevConf, that's obviously already happened. Marek, Ivan, a whole bunch of the team were there. I was not, but I heard it was really good. It was super busy, a lot of people enjoying the content that we had to offer, a lot of really good chat and feedback. Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to add than that. I don't know if you were there or not, Lukasz, but if you were, feel free to jump in. If not, you can just ignore me.
Yeah, so we had a community booth next to the Pulp and Overt guys, and it was super crowded. A lot of people asking, and we were answering questions. We had like 3 to 5 folks on site, and I was unfortunately not able to, I was there, but since it was so crowded, I didn't jump in there, and so people were answering all the questions, and we do have some feedback. I'm not sure if folks are actually planning on doing some starting a thread on our upstream. Hopefully we'll see something. And we had the conference was nice, a bunch of nice technical talks, I mean. So it was great.
Cool. That's really nice to hear. Yeah, I wish I could have been there, but sadly, not really possible for me. But yeah, it's a really great event, so I'm glad that it was busy again this year. So that's happened. What's coming up? We've got FOSDEM this weekend, so we'll have a stand in the K building, which is where we usually are. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. I'm sure it's written down somewhere, but a quick search, I didn't just see it. But we'll be there somewhere. We'll have the usual similar stuff to DevConf, as Lukasz was saying. We'll have, swag, demos, developers to talk to me. I'm not a developer, but you can talk to me. So we'll be there all weekend. The booth should be manned the whole time by someone, so come talk to us. I had a quick look through the FOSDEM schedule. There's a couple of talks that are interesting. So firstly, Wim has a talk on the infrastructure track about Foreman and Contello and Ansible. So go and check that out on Saturday. And then on Sunday, our own Tomer Brisker does not have a talk about Foreman, but he is talking about sort of event management in the community track. And while it's not a Foreman-specific track, he's one of us. He's one of ours. So we should support him. So if you're free, go and check out his talk as well. So that's FOSDEM. So it's mostly about the stand, but there are a few talks. FOSDEM's huge. Even getting one talk in is, a result. So do go and support Wim and Tomer if you can. And then on Monday, Tuesday, we have Config Management Camp. The schedule is live. There's a Foreman track all day. All day, but there's a sort of Foreman track on Monday and a more Contello-focused track on Tuesday. It got titled that way just because that's how we kind of scheduled the talks. But it's all Foreman content, and there are some Foreman talks in some of the other tracks. There's some Foreman talks in the Ansible track. Eval's got some talks there, and there's a couple of others, I think, as well. So have a look at the schedule if you're coming. Check it out. We will also have a booth And so the same sort of demos and stuff. So if you're not making it to FOSDEM, you can come and see what we've got to show off at Config Management Camp as well. I will also be floating about running our room and stuff, so if you need me, you can find me. We do have a dinner booked. So there's a forum thread. You can find it in the events forum. I'm doing a reservation system for this. I have limited places. So if you want to come, go and sign up on the forum. Or if you're not on the forum and you don't particularly want to register for the forum, then come and tell me. But I will be doing a kind of check on Tuesday morning and phoning the restaurant to give them final numbers. So I do have to limit it. About now, we've used, I think, 18 out of the 25 spaces, and I know there's more people coming. So do get in touch with me if you want to come. And then finally, we have the Hack Day on Wednesday, where we have not just like developer stuff, but if you're interested in getting into Foreman, then Aditi is going to be running a beginner's guide to contributing to Foreman session, which is going to be great. Dirk is on hand to offer the standard Netways training. So if you're more interested in a sort of user-focused how to get the best out of Foreman, then you can go and sit with Dirk and talk to him. I will probably do something on, I don't know, discovery or plugins or whatever. I haven't decided yet. And then there'll be all the devs and stuff. So if you've got a particular dev issue you want to work on, then there'll be people about who will help you. So we hope that you'll come along for that. It'd be fantastic. Right, now at this point we should be having Chris, but Chris has not been able to join us, unfortunately, and I haven't heard from him either on the forum or on the IRC channel. So I assume the cold weather has gotten the best of him and he can't join us. So instead, I'm going to use his slot to talk more about conferences. No, I don't know, really. It's just, I just wanted to show one thing off. I was messing about with some data a few weeks ago, and I wanted to show this off because it's fun. So the question is, where did my screen sharing go? Here we go. Right. So let me just get this. What do I want to do? I want to do this and this, so you can't see my chat, my tabs. And then I want to share that. There we go. So this was a random word cloud I did. This is from all the submissions to Config Management Camp. Now, I should redo this for all these selected talks for Config Management Camp. It was really hard to pick the talks because there were 160 submissions for a two-day conference. So that was like, wow. And I know that myself and the rest of the organizers, we spent a lot of time trying to figure out like what to pick. But anyway, this was from the submissions. And for me, there's some really notable things that stand out here, like how huge Ansible is for a start. But also things like Kubernetes is coming up there, automation. But how big is Foreman, right? I mean, for us as a community, that's pretty big, right? That's pretty big. I'm pretty happy with that. You've got, you know, some interesting things here. You know, Docker's there. But Kubernetes is much bigger than Docker, so I quite like that too. You can look at this in different ways. This was it by like most common words. It's not very big. I'm sorry, it should be a bigger image. But again, you can see Ansible is just far and away like the most popular word in the submissions. It's just huge. And then you got Puppet and Foreman down here, basically neck and neck. Quite happy with that. Kubernetes, systems, automation, all that kind of thing. What's really interesting is when you try and so all the talks had to be tagged. You had to pick a tag for your submission. And if you break that down and you look at the most common words in a tag that are not common in any other tag, that is to say, you won't see Ansible in any of these 7 graphs because it's common in every single tag, right? It's just across the board interesting to people. But if you take that away, if you say what's unique to each tag, then you start getting a really interesting kind of grouping. And what I found really interesting, I found a couple of things interesting here. First of all, I could see that these were largely accurate, like security mostly talks about secrets and security and policies and OpenSCAP and things, which seems right. And, you know, frameworks wants to talk about things like Salt and, you know, Tower, Prometheus, etc. Pretty good idea. What I found interesting that Foreman, despite being like the 7th most popular word overall, only turns up in the other tag, which makes it really interesting to me that we probably should have had some kind of tag for either like higher level systems management or for Foreman itself, or something got missed there, because you look at the top words in each of these categories and they kind of make sense, right? Like in containers, it's KubeVirt and operators and this kind of thing, microservices, you know, in continuous delivery, it's Jenkins and AWX, and in DevOps, it's Salt and Salt Stack, and because Puppet and Ansible are in every track, so they don't show up, right? But Salt does, and so on. So all of these look right, but Foreman only shows up in other, and that tells me there's something not quite right with our tags, and we probably want to look at that for next year. So I thought that was an interesting bit of analysis. Just wanted to share that with you since we had some spare time. But other than that, I don't have a lot else out now. I am going to do some more on this kind of thing. One of my plans is to get all the tweets around Config Management Camp and see like before, during, and after, and have a look at like the patterns and trends within that when I get back. So it could be quite interesting. But we'll see where that goes. Okay, so that's my Mastodon. You don't want to see that. So what I will do is reshare the slides here. Where have my slides gone? Here they are. All right, so Chris unfortunately not here, but Lukasz is, and he wants to talk about smart proxies.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Thanks for the info about talks and about conferences. And the numbers are really nice. We are bigger than Kubernetes, I guess. That was my reading of one of the graphs.
Yeah, it's nice.
Or more popular, which is great. Great to hear. So just let me, this is going to be pretty quick, but I want to share with you guys that I just shared my browser here. And you probably know the Foreman, the smart proxy. I'll be talking about smart proxy endpoint called /features, which provides you basically what modules, plugins are enabled, and that we have a refresh feature in Foreman that is a functionality you can call from the UI, API, command line that grabs this and stores this in our database. We kind of have a cache, I would say, or we basically store this in a database. And this serves as a great thing, as a base that we can basically associate those features with subnets and other things in Foreman. And this is pretty important for orchestration and stuff. Now, this is quite old stuff going on here, I guess. This has been in the smart proxy for ages, and it's I guess it's now time to modernize this. So Justin and Ewood started an effort bringing and extending this this endpoint, and the idea behind this is to be able to fine-grain features a little bit more than features. It's just a string, like let's say DHCP, but it doesn't tell you much about what exactly the plugin or module that is enabled on smart proxy actually provides. So now we have a concept of capabilities. So this is one of the core work has been merged yesterday already. So it's developed. So it's heading towards, I guess, 1.22 is the next major release that will include the support for this. And this patch is actually building on top of that and basically using the framework to expose capabilities of DNS modules, DNS plugins. We have two resources in smart proxy. There's a plugin and there's a provider. So plugin is usually DNS plugin that provides the API, the interface, and then there's a provider. Some plugins have providers, for example, DHCP, DNS, and those providers provide actually the functionality. So we have a DNS CMD provider, libvirt provider, and NS update, which is for ISC DHCP, which uses NS update command to do the DNS updates. And now we are able actually in the plugin source code. This is basically, if I view this file, this is actually a kind of a DSL. We're looking on the smart proxy code here now that specifies the plugin and its version and which settings it requires. And now we have a new keyword, or Dsl Keyword Capability. It's basically a string. So you're free to invent and you're free to define what you want. This is a proposal, but we're thinking about something like record type. And obviously for DNS, we need to somehow show to the consumer of the API or inform the consumer about capabilities. So for DNS, we have A records, IPv4, IPv6 records, CNAMEs, reverse DNS entries, and also service records. And there is also a patch pending review, which it's also FP, I think it's the name, fingerprints of for SSH, which is great. I love to see that. So now we have the option to specify. So obviously NS Update is very full-featured. It provides all the features, all the capabilities. So we have 5 actually DNS records recognized. For example, libvirt plugin is very limited, as you can see. It only provides so IPv4 only and no PTR at all. That doesn't. The libvirt plugin is very meant for development. It's meant for I wrote this when I was using libvirt, or I'm still using a DNS libvirt, I guess, for some of my development. So it's not really a great idea to use it in production because it obviously don't have PTR records. But some people do. It's fine. If you're fine, it has some limitations. And then there's this DNS CMD, which is almost identical as the DNS update. So this is basically the capability, and there's another new DSL method which is called expose setting, and this is very simple. So every single plugin has a bunch of settings. You all know that you're specifying that's via our installer, Puppet-based installer. We have a lot of parameters, like 500 or something, really close, which is insane amount of work. And you can also, this goes into YAML files, so ADC Foreman proxy / settings d / and now the plugin name, in this case that would be dns.yaml. And those settings are stored in smart proxy memory, of course, but now we have an option to expose them. So there's already one TFTP server name setting expose, which we think might be useful, and making some things a little bit simpler in Foreman. And this patch also exposes, for example, the used provider setting, which basically tells you which provider is being in use for which module. So DHCP ISE is the default, and NS updates are the defaults. Of course, you can override those. So this gives you some information. Now, let me show how this looks like. So this is a gist I have on my GitHub account, and this is actually the new endpoint is now, it was /features, and now it's /v2/features. Of course, this is completely not compatible. It breaks current contract, so we had to opt in for v2. That was one of the approaches we were concerning. So v2 is the prefix now, and this is, I think, the first. I'm not sure, but I think it's the first, or maybe we already have v2 API, doesn't matter. So just remember, v2 features is now available in develop. You can use it, and as you can see, the amount of information is much more. There's much more information. Like in the previously, we just had I think it was an array, JSON array, showing you just the plugin names. Now we have plugin names. It's a hash, and now we can see that if HTTP or HTTPS is enabled states. So we have a couple of states running, disabled, failed, and stuff like that. And then when we scroll down a little bit, then there's the settings. As you can see, use provider is exposed. So that's a sub hash called settings. And here the DNS is a good example, or it's the only example, I think, for now. And this is a proposed change, so it's not yet merged, but I guess it will merge it, because that was the reason why we actually introduced capabilities, is that we can see that this DNS API is using DNS libvirt for in my case right now, and this is I've just minutes ago, and it provides these capabilities. So now we can inform, and we can actually take advantage of this. And for example, we can either show warning or error if that's something that Foreman really needs to do and can't, or we can maybe orchestrate different steps and during our orchestration, so that we have now the sky's the limit. And if I scroll a little bit down, TFTP server name is already exposed. So that's it. So that's pretty much it. So just keep in mind that there's these new features, and we'll be taking an advantage in the upcoming releases, hopefully, and we'll be able to hit 1.22 with some new fancy and much better orchestration. And also, I'm pretty sure that Catello is also planning on elaborating on that. That's pretty much what I have today.
Super. That's really cool. It's going to be really interesting to see where that goes. I think, I mean, it's been, I think, as you said, it's fair to say that that the proxy has not changed a lot in a long time, right? So maybe, yeah, it's a good time to start thinking about whether or not we can do something about that. And, you know, yeah.
One more thing, if you have something you might, because we are changing this API, we're introducing a new /API 2/features. If you have something that we should probably put, just say it now or never, because we don't want to break the new API again. And so, like, I think that we might maybe change the structure. There's still a time, even if this was merged. If you have some kind of a improvement or proposal, just go ahead and speak up.
Cool. All right. Sounds good. You heard it here first. Go and get your thoughts in. That'd be great. Okay, I think that's all we have for today. Short demo, but that was expected. Not a lot else to say, really. It's a shame Chris couldn't be with us. I don't know what's happened there. I'll ping him an email. He can always do his content in 3 weeks' time. I will likely do a broadcast when we get back. So a week from now, I might do a special, not demo exactly. It'll probably be just me, but it might be me and Tomer. Tomer and I are doing the sort of state of the community talk as the first talk at Config Management Camp, and I don't want the rest of the community to feel left out. So it is likely that we will redo that talk as a YouTube video when we get back. So that's probably going to be Thursday sometime, I guess. It depends exactly when Tomer gets back to Israel, but he might not be in a state to broadcast on Thursday. But at some point soon after the conferences, anyway, we are going to repeat the sort of state of the community talk so everyone else can see, mainly so we can show off spiffy graphs, because I like spiffy graphs, right? So in case that word cloud didn't convince you already. So in the meantime, that is all we have for today. So thank you very much for watching. And if I don't see you at the conferences, then I will see you some other time. In the meantime, you know where to find us online. Thanks for watching. Do take care.